Welcome back for another episode of Business Resilience in the New Normal. This is episode number 3. And obviously, I have with me a lot of amazing people, a lot of experts to help you out dealing with this crazy situations and how can your business thrive through this. If you don't know me, my name is Flavilla Fongeng. I'm a brand strategist and the founder of Three Colors War, a branding and marketing agency. People know me for different things: speaker, mentor, lower businesswoman. I mean, I don't mind bragging, but today's not about me. And with me today, I have Felix Bender, a good friend of mine, a good client of mine, the managing director of Northlight Solutions. Felix, thank you for being here. How are you doing?
I'm well, thank you. I'm well.
Can you tell us a bit more about you? What is Northlight Solutions? And I think this is super important what you do right now.
Northlight Solutions is an organization that's aimed at getting businesses and organizations to collaborate together better so that they can survive, compete and flourish. And normally we would concentrate on the competing and flourishing part, but at the moment, in the current crisis, survival is very much at everyone's front of mind.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's funny because obviously I look at things from a branding point of view or brand marketing point of view, but you will be looking at, the companies, as mentioned, British Airways or Virgin, and how they've dealt with their employees and, looking at numbers, which, every company needs to make tough decisions. But I think this element of, I say we're looking into a lot of frustration, a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety, which means led to conflict. I don't know how you're seeing it, when you look at these companies in general.
I think all these companies have different drivers. So, the really big companies, they've got to keep going to churn over the money for their shareholders. That's who they have to feed, and that's their primary concern, and therefore the workers tend to take a sort of lower concern. Whereas a smaller company, can be more about the workers and more about creating this team that's all part of developing a coherent brand. You are what you do.
Yes.
Simple as that.
Totally. That leads us to the next question. Actually, next question I want to ask you: how should companies prepare themselves during and after the lockdown? What can you tell us?
I think this is interesting because we've all had the initial shock of the crisis, and we've been in, as I said, we've all gone into survival mode. And how do we hang on?
Yeah.
And now, what do we do next? And from my perspective, the thing that companies can do is create cohesive teams so that they're in a really good position for their recovery.
Yes.
So my advice is to start now thinking about how are you going to reintegrate your team on their return to work.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, everyone has gone through this crisis together, but we all will have seen it differently. We will have been in different circumstances. For instance, I'm very lucky. I sit down here in the rural countryside where, to be honest, it doesn't really affect my day-to-day life. But if you live in the middle of a town, or a city, it will have been, quite a different experience. So everyone will have different circumstances. Everyone will have a different perception of the crisis and how it will affect them.
Yes.
Those people who have been working as key workers, will feel they've carried the burden. Those people who have been furloughed will feel they've been parked to one side in a huge welter of uncertainty. People who've been laid off and are then called back to work will feel they've been sort of used and thrown aside and then taken back. So there'll all be different views and perspectives.
Yes.
And there'll be different motivations to return to work. So how you reintegrate all that is going to be a challenge. Mm-hmm. And our advice is to start thinking about it now and start engaging with your people. If you haven't talked to your people during the crisis, then now's the time to start, because you need to understand their concerns, you need to be able to reassure them, and you need to engage them in making the plan for coming back to work.
Mm-hmm. I think it's the element of, it's a collaborative journey, right? Where you ask people what they, I was listening to this amazing woman. She's a multi-million business entrepreneur, and she said everybody come up with a new idea in terms of how we can deal with this crisis. And no matter if you're a receptionist, well, no matter where you are, the cleaner or whatever, everybody has a right to just voice out one idea. and then they would decide what is great. It was a great way to really involve everybody in the situation. And I thought that in this situation is, let's not look at, again, I'm not an expert in what you do, but I really think that companies, as I say, working with and talk to their employees rather than talking down at them, more like talking with them to really combine together into finding a solution that will benefit them all. Do you agree with that?
I agree, things. If you're doing something like trying to work out how people can work together in this self-distancing period and all the sort of complexities that go around that, if you tell them what to do, they'll do it.
Yeah.
If they can see the point in it.
Yeah.
If you get them to develop the plan themselves, then they will own that plan and they will buy into it and they will make sure it works.
Mm-hmm.
And the probability is they'll do it better than you will actually.
Mm-mm. When I think about it, obviously your expertise is obviously conflict and people management. So my question was about how can they improve and maintain business continuity where they or not were hit by another peak. What would you say to that question? What would be your answer?
I think here the most important thing from my perspective that they can do is to develop strong and cohesive teams, because this is what will hold them together, where the members support each other and work together collaboratively. So you need to be making sure that everyone can do their job, of course, but then let them open their minds to see where they can operate more widely. The managers and the employers, they themselves need to develop their leadership skills.
Yes.
So they can lead and manage this distributed workforce.
Can I interrupt you for a minute? But you said you talk about them getting better leaders, but in a position, is it something that you recommend them to do for an online training program or for you and your support? Is that something that you can help people with?
Right. I mean, there's lots of stuff around. We do stuff that we can help people with. So we've put together packages for developing collaborative leadership.
Yes.
And we're now starting to think about how do we take that into the much harder bit of developing, collaborative but remote leadership, because that's going to be really, really tough for people to do. You may only see people face to face once a month, otherwise it's all done like this. Make it harder. But I think the point I would say is people need to think about starting to develop these skills.
What do you think it's harder? Can I interrupt you again? Sorry, I can interrupt you. But what do you think it's harder to manage remotely?
I think if you're in the same room as someone, you can engage with them more fully than over a video link. And I just think it's that human social piece that goes on. I think over the video link, you have to work out how you're going to do it.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be more difficult. I think it's going to be more difficult, but actually, in many ways, it might become more rewarding for workers. So there's a sort of
interesting. Interesting. I'm curious to see what happened with that. But good point. Good point. Next question: how have you helped your clients through this? Because you mentioned obviously different element around remote leadership and managing, preparing themselves and thinking ahead and being collaborative in your approach. But how have you helped them? Bear in mind that you can't also physically be there.
Yeah, I mean, we have been hit by the crisis just like everyone else. Our major core workers dissipated, and our new products that we were going to bring online, we haven't been able to do that. And we won't be able to do that in the format that we had developed. So we've been hit. And where we saw we could help out was by helping clients look to the future slightly. How do we help people understand what the new normal might look like as it affects them? How do we get out of this pandemic? What's then on the horizon? And the possible impact of what might be beyond the horizon. So it's trying to say this is a long-term situation. Now, this is not something that's going to be over in 3 months, as we maybe begin.
Absolutely not.
This might be with us for a year, 18 months, 2 years, in some shape or form. And there will be behaviors, customer behaviors, client behaviors, attitudes that stick coming out of this. So attitudes will change. Can we see how that is, and can we use this crisis as a catalyst to make changes that maybe you might have wanted to make in the past, but just never felt you could? Or maybe there are changes now that you could make that would take you, in a sense, move you from the 20th century to the 21st century.
Yes. Point. What do you think, out of curiosity, what do you think is going to be the new normal?
I have no idea. I mean, I think there's going to be much more reliance on digital, and I think we will make the move from digital being something in addition to something that is very much at the core of what we do now. So I think it will be that move into the 21st century.
Really good. So next, sorry. I'll let you finish.
Well, and I think there is going to be a shift in the approach to consumers to move away from mass consumption to sustainable consumption. I think that you can see that now starting to come through. So I think that'll stick.
I really hope, I really hope we do that, because, you do remember that back in the days I used to work in the fashion industry, and as much as I love fashion is probably one of the most damaging industries to the planet. With the rise of fast fashion and people who are just, it's more, quantity over quality, and this is not good in the long run. So I really hope that, those brands will be much more, or consumers will be much more concerned of their choices. Obviously, it depends of generation, because obviously the younger generation probably are more carefree. I say carefree, but they're probably more looking into having options, a lot of options. But yes, I think there's definitely this element of do we need all these things that we have? I think that's the thing when we're in isolation, you ask yourself like, do I really need all of these things? So yes, so there's definitely a question of a change of options or decision that we're making in what we choose to buy. And I agree with you on that. So my next question is, what can businesses learn post COVID-19?
I think this is going to be really interesting, and I guess each business will take out. Well, the first thing I would say is businesses should learn from this and actively, gather up the lessons, work out what it is they need to do, and then embed them in their culture to go forward. So they should learn from this. What they learn will vary, but I think the one thing for me I'd like to see come out is that we see the end of the old boss culture, which is just doesn't work, and I would like to see that die, be put in the waste paper basket, and I would like to see us move to better collaborative working, because that drives innovation. It gives us the flexibility, and it's how we will solve the problems that are coming over the horizon.
Absolutely. I've always loved, the flat management structure, but again, it might not work for everybody. My business is not huge, so I can do that. So really giving a voice to every single person in my team, and that's super important, because there's one thing that they always say is that I feel value, and that's super important, because I knew when I used to be employed by another company before starting my own, is that I wanted that feeling to not be in my company culture. So I really cultivated that. I've voiced it out. Tell us what you think. What would you do? What's your opinion? What's your suggestions? Be open. Let's agree to disagree. Challenging that. So yes. So definitely, I think there's definitely a need for moving away from that. That you say the boss controls everything and detect everything that happens for everybody. You also mentioned that you've been hit yourself by COVID-19. So have you been coping with the situation, and what have you put in place?
Well, we're
Ignore that.
physically, physically we're all right because we work distributed anyway. So, nothing has changed for us physically. Where what has changed is the client behavior, who have decided that they want to park certain activities, or they are no longer at this moment interested in activities because they're just trying to hang on to their cash because they want to know what's coming next, and all this. So what we had to put in place was the intellectual process to say, okay, the situation's changed. Now what do we do? How can we keep operating, do something beneficial with the talent and the resources that we've got? And that's so our change was an intellectual piece.
That's good. That's good. Good move. Good move for you. So, obviously, as a client, what have you learned working with Freakle as well, with regards to the expertise of burning and match? What have you learned? A lot of things.
But Bella, I learned, as ever, I learned a lot from you, and I'm sure your other clients will say that as well. But I was trying to think of something in particular, and I thought back to my time in the army, and I remembered, when you looked at other soldiers, you looked at you looked at their uniforms, you looked at their equipment, you looked at them, and you got an initial impression of them as to whether you thought they would be good or whether you thought they would be less than good. And I suddenly realized that's the value of branding that I learned from you. So, the first impression that you get from having the right message, the right look, the right feel, the package scores more highly than one imagines when you're set back.
Absolutely.
So the brand is your uniform.
Yes.
And it looks right to other people, and it looks good, and it then you're one step up the run.
Yes.
If it doesn't look good, if you turn up in a shabby brand or a poor brand, or something that people look at and think, you don't get that first impression.
Absolutely, absolutely. Is it? Thank you so much. I really enjoyed this. It really was brilliant, and I hope that everybody as well, took some notes. You took some notes, and you're gonna apply a lot of things. It's really about thinking ahead right now. When we move away from how we're gonna do that, now we are looking at the next step. And not again. I think it's important not to count so much as well on just the government, but also not just on leaders, but really employ, I would say, engage your team in everything that you do. So now, if everybody want to get in touch with you, Felix, what is the best way to reach you out?
If they want to get in touch with me, generally, they can look at our website. There's a contact bar on the website, which is www.northlightsolutions.com. So it's
I'll put the link.
northlightsolutions.com, and that will take you to the website, and you'll find a contact bar there. If you want to get in touch with me personally, you can give me a call on my mobile phone, 07908 170159. Obviously, don't.
Are you giving everybody your number? Be on the internet.
Why not?
So if anybody wants to call Felix, please do that. That'll be so funny to watch. So for me as a call as well, if you want to get a free brand assessment, there's no charge or anything like that. Great conversation, and everybody who had a call with me, I really enjoyed it. Any of my colleagues really enjoyed it. Just visit freecolaswo.com, and I hope you enjoy this session. There's more coming up, so keep an eye on that. Thank you so much. You can find me on most social platforms, and especially those ones. And I hope to see you very soon.